Hi guys, welcome to this second episode of the Blockhood development blog. I'm gonna be showing you a bunch of new things that I've been working on. So yeah, it's been quite a while since the first video, so there's a lot to show. So we have a brand new UI system. Um, you can see here like the different modes now. Some of them are active. In the previous tutorial we didn't have that. We were just working on the sandbox mode. And here you will have, you'll see that this screen will be populated with all the challenges that you're gonna have. Right now we have just 3 challenges as a proof of concept of some of the ideas, but we have many challenges that we're kind of like testing before we really put them in here. The sandbox mode is again the mode in which you're gonna be using all the features of the game, and you have like this kind of now customizable size of a grid. But we are capping the number of blocks. Actually, this should say 400 instead of 40. But we're capping the max number of blocks as we are still working on optimization in the game, right? Let me just bring down the music a little bit. The tutorial, we've been putting a lot of work in the tutorial and trying to improve the wording of it, as we find it's a kind of a key part to just make the game understandable and some of the mechanics. So you'll see that there's several tutorials now, and we will continue improving this as we're running right now the beta, and we're getting a lot of feedback from people. How do you understand the tutorial, and if you're getting stuck in something, we're going to be changing that in order to improve the game. The credits, some of the options, this is something that I haven't been working on, but like it's gonna come soon. The only thing that really should work here is the sound, so you could just bring down the music volume or the sound effects. Now we're kind of starting to work with the sound effects of the different UI elements and also the blocks within the game. So let's start. Let's go dive in and into the sandbox still and see what is new. Right. So one of the things that you'll notice is, well, maybe you haven't heard the older versions, but we've changed several things like the music, the navigation, and then you have this welcome screen that you can get rid of. So I'm gonna just show you a little bit of how I would work within the game, and some of the changes that we've done to the graphics as well. So here we have the different inventory. We're gonna be completing this inventory, hopefully, right? There's more elements coming in, and hopefully as the game progresses, we're gonna be able to have a much larger set of tiles. So you're gonna be able to kind of scroll down and up and just see those. But the content of these tiles is not the first priority before shipping. It's just mainly balancing the game and getting the experience to be as smooth and entertaining as possible. So one of the things that is important right now is that all the kind of access system and the connectivity of tiles, it's been reworked to be based on direction, right? So what does that mean? Is that if you right click here, you'll see these arrows, and every tile has a certain connectivity. So you can go and check these data modes, and it will show you everything is accessible. But if I have something like, I don't know, something like a solar panel, right, or a wind turbine, you'll see that this guy is not accessible. So I can connect that with the corridor, and that works, right? And the idea here is that the edge condition of this block is the exterior. So you want to be able to provide access from the exterior to the inside of your block, right? Like a city block. That's the analogy, and it has been understood like that by some people playing already. The other thing that maybe you just notice is that this blinking happened, right? There is blinking going on, and that blinking is replacing what we originally had, these kind of production circles, and those were being very heavy, and they were like really interfering with the graphics of the game. So now this blinking shows you when a tile produces resources, right? So if we look up here, each tile has its inputs and outputs, right? So money, input and output. So this output is every time the tile computes or produces, so it happens over time, right? So if you go here to the resource panel, you'll see that you start with some money, but that money starts going down every time one of these corridors click, right? So it's slowly going down, and this arrow here, it's an indication that the trend of this resource is actually to go down, right? It might be tricky for you to have a sense if your tiles are going up or down, because different tiles have different production rates. So some tiles will produce very quickly and some tiles will produce very slowly, right? So if you think of a farm might take quite a bit of time to produce resources, and especially those are going to be based on seasons. And while some other tiles are just like a daily basis, right? So that's the upkeep that they will have. And maybe, rightly so, maybe we should include in this menu here on the right some information of how frequent that update happens, right? The the production rate, which is a variable within the tiles, which is not exposed right now, but we hope that the blinking timing would actually tell the players roughly like how long does a tile take to produce resources. So these resources on the left here, it's a total accumulation of energy and money, right? And yes, you can accumulate a lot of energy. Some people have pointed this out in YouTube. You can accumulate a lot of energy and delete all the production of energy and do other things, absolutely. But you'll realize that you'll run out of what might seem like a lot of resources for a while might go down very quickly, very quickly. So that's something that you want to create a balance between the consumption and the collection of resources. Right? And at the same time, you're discovering new resources that you're not using, are not going to show up here. So that's kind of the main idea of the game. Like at the beginning, you might want to produce electricity and water. So we have these water towers. Some people prefer to play with the well that doesn't have any inputs, but the well is supposed to be like a starter tutorial kind of unit. Actually, we're thinking of rebalancing the well to have much less production of water, because it really it's not a reality that you could have hundreds of wells one next to each other, right? Like, and they're not really free. This is a kind of a helper device for players that are starting to understand the game. And same happens with the solar panel. A lot of people rather do solar panels because they don't have any inputs, and so we might consider adding inputs like some upkeep of money um, to the solar panels. We seem to be having, you see this kind of red icon. I mean, I kind of point it out with the mouse, but this red icon is showing you that this item is not accessible, right? So we can, if we go here, you see these guys are not accessible. And why is that? Because these guys have only one entry point, right? And that means that I need to position them in the with the right orientation towards access, so that it could be supported or basically maintained. So I'm gonna just put a few here. Let's put some here. And you see, anything that is on the edge, it's automatically accessible. So that makes it a bit easier, and some people kind of prefer playing with hugging the edge. But you see, when we start creating these corridors, we should provide enough connectivity to those. So, like, it's important, I think, to play with corridors, and we kind of try to balance the game so that that corridors become an important factor. Maybe right now the corridors are a bit too expensive in the amount of money that they consume, and you see you're running out of money already. So when you have a lot of corridors, so I'm definitely gonna reduce the upkeep of corridors to just see a more because circulation in any urban block, it's kind of very important, right? Same thing with plazas. I mean, plazas, for instance, are for money, and it makes it very unlikely that people would actually use them for very little reward. So we're gonna rebalance some of this stuff as we go along, especially with the input of players and so on. You see, I'm running out of money. So one of the things that I definitely want to be doing at this point uh, is to produce money. Like all these elements that are kind of now not having enough inputs, not enough money, are blinking red, and that's telling you that they don't have enough resources to sustain themselves. These guys would actually collapse after a while, and we also added a warning for the players to know that a tile will collapse. So I'm gonna let them blink for a while. What you don't realize down here is that every time they blink red, they go down into a decay point, and each tile has a resilience level, right? So if you have a tile might have 8 resilience or 20 resilience, and if they reach the maximum resilience, it would actually break, right? And the last level, these guys, for instance, are just about to break, and they're blinking red constantly. So that is an indication that these guys have reached their decay or their resilience maximum, and there you go. They blinked for a while, so you can do something about it, try to correct that situation, but ultimately there you go. You had a full breakdown of these tiles. And the other thing that happens is that when one tile explodes and gets abandoned, it will trigger slightly more decay to tiles around them, right? So it would just give a little bit of extra decay to everything that it's around it, and that would actually trigger these chain reactions, right? So it might seem a bit difficult at first, or unforgiving, that you're getting one tile decay, very little time to correct it, um, and then eventually when it triggers, it actually starts triggering the whole block. But that's kind of the price to pay if you're not considering these kind of ecological dependencies, right? In a way, the idea behind the game is that you do not have money in terms of like building whatever you want, right? Like you don't have nothing, it's blocked to you from the beginning. And I think that the only way to kind of compensate this mechanic with basically the creation is to create a something like this the consequences in a way come back to you. And you see that everything right now is destroyed, like they didn't have enough resources. The only thing that is actually working is our solar panels that don't need anything, and the well that produces a bit of water, and they don't need anything. So these guys will never decay because they don't need inputs. Um, so yeah, that's the whole point. And in a way, what we're trying to aim is that the game's fun. It's about really starting to build larger and larger, but at all times you are struggling to know if you could go further, if you have the resources to go further, because everything is at stake, right? Your whole block is at stake, and you could actually crash. What you're hearing now, it's the music. We've re-implemented new music. We're working now with Selma Mutal, who is a composer based in France, and really in the interest of not having any flags in YouTube and not having any problems with people showing the game in YouTube, we decided to recompose everything for the game, and that it's been great to work with her. But everything that you're hearing so far in the game is not the final sound. It's still in production, and there's only one track. There's a lot of kind of ambient sound that it's missing, and also these kind of small sounds. Let's say if you create something, these small sounds that you get when you create something, those are being reworked as well, and to kind of work with the environment, right? Other things that we're working on is ambient effects. When rain comes, when birds come, and when like the whole environment will have a bit more action in a way. And there's a lot of new things that are coming soon, like achievements and hopefully the agent system, which is ultimately like what would allow us to go for final release. But we're getting closer to this early access launch, which is gonna be by the beginning of January. The beta testing has been very, very good for us to know what is working and what is not working, and we hope that even the early access is something that it's a very functional, very fun game, and still very polished, that will grow, but it's not something that is broken, and it's something that would have any trouble. And so hopefully that you can share it and then tell us your ideas and your comments regarding the game, so that we can improve it for launch. I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you guys.